Meaning that whereas...
Okay. So sulfur would have to break its methyl bonds, whatever the that means. And then those broken off bonds would have to bind with oxygen individually and then come back and rebind with the original chemical. Okay.
For the first step,
Makes sense. Yo, how's it going, everybody? It's your boy Frame1 back with another reaction for you guys. And in today's video, we are checking out the bizarre death of Gloria Ramirez, the toxic lady incident by Wendigoon. And I'm gonna be honest, yo, before the internet historian video, I had never heard of this guy before. I had never seen him pop up in my recommended. I don't think anybody had really recommended his content for me before. Maybe one or two people way back in the day, but the name really wasn't ringing any bells for me. So I don't even know what type of content this guy makes, but some of you told me to check out his content. Apparently he's pretty funny as well. Some of you guys are telling me to check out his content, so here we are today. I have no idea what to expect, really. Is it kind of like internet historian, narrative storytelling type deal? I don't think it's gaming based on the title of this video, but I'm wondering if it's like all like internet historian type videos. I guess we're gonna find out today. I decided to just pull up his latest video. It came out 3 days ago, the day of recording. So yeah, I hope all my audio issues are resolved. The last few videos were kind of scuffed. Some of them were a little loud. The last one I think was a little quiet. So hopefully today's is a bit better. Yeah, let's do this thing, guys.
On February the 19th, 1994 at 8:15 p.m., a 31-year-old woman named Gloria Ramirez was admitted to the Riverside General Hospital in Riverside, California.
Okay.
Within the hour, her mysterious condition would leave 23 people injured, 5 hospitalized, and herself dead, with no solid explanation to this day.
Still no explanation on this woman. What the fuck? My initial thoughts were, is she like radiated? Like, is she like emitting radiation for something? Like somehow? Did she consume like uranium?
However, it seems that now, through a series of terrifying coincidences and a whole lot of science, we may have an answer to what happened that night in Riverside, California. Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about the mysterious death of Gloria Ramirez, also known as the Toxic Lady. Every aspect of this case,
oh my God,
from the events of that night to...
I'm really curious what the what the fuck is going on here. I'm wondering if the other people that were injured by this toxic lady were fine for many years to come afterwards, or if they ended up like passing as well like a year or two down the line. I guess we're gonna find out. Let's just do this.
The investigation that followed is bizarre. If you're like me, then you've probably heard this story passed around on either old creepy YouTube videos or mystery internet forums. And while a lot of people have kind of chalked the case up to a supernatural occurrence or just one unexplainable phenomena that will probably never happen again,
understandable why I haven't heard of this, because I avoid creepy shit like the plague, dude. I watched The Grudge when I was a kid, when I was like 7 years old, man. And oh my God, like I had the attic in my bedroom, like above my bed, and like I couldn't sleep for like a fucking year, bro. So yeah, I'm not good with like horror or like creepy stuff. It really like sticks with me.
The true answer is much more terrifying.
Great.
And depressing. And if I had to suffer through it, then you have to suffer through it with me. So stick around as we talk about the death of the toxic lady, Gloria Ramirez. And you're not gonna have fun with it. I'm gonna have fun with it because I can talk about it, but you're not gonna enjoy it. So get ready to watch me enjoy this. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about something that is admittedly less fun. Life insurance. A lot of people, hope you all check them out.
I like this guy so far though, I have to say.
We are back to the video. We are gonna go ahead and get into it, but as always, thank you for watching. As mentioned, Gloria Ramirez...
He enunciates his words quite well. I like this dude already.
Ramirez was 31 years old, and 6 weeks prior to the events of February the 19th, she had been diagnosed with cervical cancer. Her prognosis wasn't good, as the cancer was already late stage by the time they discovered it. So 6 weeks later, Gloria calls an ambulance as she's suffering from shortness of breath and heart palpitations. So the ambulance shows up, puts an oxygen mask on her, and the paramedics rush her to the Riverside General Hospital. She arrives to the hospital at 8:15 and seems to be confused as she's unable to answer questions. While she's in the state of delirium, the doctors begin to sedate her in order to get her heart rate under control. And after this doesn't correct her heart rate, they decide to use a defibrillator. Whenever they open up her shirt to apply the chest paddles, they see that her skin is coated in a sort of glossy oil. The people in the emergency room take note of this and mention that it looks too thick to be sweat. However, they just assume that she's coated in some kind of lotion or oil, so they use the chest paddles anyway. The second strange occurrence comes when one of the nurses points out that Ramirez has a very strong garlic smell coming from her mouth. And according to everyone in the room, this is beyond Gloria just ate some garlic before she
I was gonna
ER.
Wait, what?
This is an overwhelming stench that everyone begins to notice. However, Gloria is actively dying on the table and they don't have a lot of time to ask questions.
What the fuck? I don't even know. Like, I like to try to predict where the story's gonna go and like the cause of these like mysterious events, but I have no fucking idea what could be causing this. I also am not very. I was never very good at biology or any of the human sciences, so I really have no fucking clue what could be causing this. Now I have to guess the garlic breath is probably just maybe a side effect of the cancer, the late stage cancer, like almost like a decomposition or decay of some sort of her mouth area. I don't know. I really don't know. The fucking thick layer of sweat or lotion or whatever. I don't know. My first thought, the first thing that came to my mind was foul play for some reason, but I don't think that's where the story's gonna go. I immediately thought like, oh, maybe somebody like actually like fucked her up or something with some sort of toxic chemical in her body, but I don't know. Let's go.
So they just keep pushing forward. A nurse named Susan Kane draws blood from Gloria's arm. However, as she draws the blood, she noticed that there's a strong ammonia stench coming from the syringe. While inspecting the syringe, Susan passes it off to a medical resident named Julie Gorginski. While inspecting the vial of blood, Julie notices that there seems to be these floating manila-colored crystals in the serum of blood itself.
Manila-colored crystals? What the fuck does that mean? Manila color? Okay, so it's like yellowish. It looks like, ew, it looks like some, looks like Kraft Singles cheese, this picture right here. Okay.
While the two of them are standing there discussing how Ramirez could have crystals in her blood, suddenly, Susan passes out. The attending physician in the emergency room, Dr. Ochoa, catches Susan as she's falling. He shakes her awake, and whenever she comes to, Susan says that it feels like her face is burning. Julie, the other person who handled the blood vial, says that she's feeling nauseous as well. She goes out into the hallway, sits down at a nurse's station, and whenever a nurse walks up to her and says, "Are you okay?" right before Julie can respond, she passes out as well. At the same time, the respiratory therapist Maureen Welch, who's in the emergency room delivering oxygen to Ramirez.
This is like the equivalent of like fucking one person peeking at a time, like in Valorant or some shit. Like, I don't know who anyone plays tac shooters, but that's what this reminding me of. Assuming there's no foul play involved, it's gotta be the cancer is like mutating. So I don't know, dude. I'm not even gonna pretend to fucking know what's going on here. I have no idea.
Passes out as well. So 3 people who were in the ER are falling unconscious, and everyone else in the room is starting to feel ill. So naturally, the immediate thing they suspect is a gas leak. So they evacuate the entire emergency wing of the hospital. All of the patients are carried out on gurneys and stretchers and just wait in the parking lot.
Wait, this is insane.
Dr.
This woman was so toxic, they thought it was gas.
Ochoa and a few other workers stay in the room with Ramirez, trying to save her life. However, nothing seems to be working, and at 8:50, Gloria Ramirez is pronounced dead, only 35 minutes after she arrived at the hospital. At this point, people in the emergency room thought that whatever was happening, it was coming from Gloria. So a couple of workers moved her to a quarantine room just to be safe. Right after Gloria's body was moved into quarantine, one of the workers who had moved Gloria, a woman named Sally.
Surely they would have been able to deduce that it was something in that room, right? Like, how could it have been a gas leak if it was only people that were like single file going into that room to check out Gloria? I don't know. Better safe than sorry, though, I guess. I don't know. Okay.
Sally Balderas began vomiting and said that it felt like her skin was burning. To make sure that the hospital was safe,
who was that?
One of the workers who had moved Gloria, a woman named Sally Balderas, began vomiting and said that it felt like her skin was burning. To make sure that the hospital was safe, a team of people in full hazmat suits investigated the emergency wing. They found that there was no gas, chemical, or biological leak in the hospital. So whatever was happening must have been coming from Gloria. To contain whatever this was, Gloria's body was placed in a sealed aluminum casket. After this, the emergency rooms were able to be used again. However, 23 people reported feeling nauseous or ill, and 5 hospital workers were hospitalized. Among those
After the fact? Like, after they had moved her and, like, made sure that there was no lingering chemicals in the air that could be, like, impacting these people? I'm wondering if this was only people that had worked in the room that she was kept in, directly after, she'd passed away. Or if it was, like, all over the hospital.
were Susan Kane, who spent 10 days in the hospital, and Julie Gorginski, who spent 2 weeks in the hospital.
Dude, what
so
the
immediately
fuck?
the
Is that
question
serious?
became, what happened to Gloria Ramirez?
Yeah.
And it became a national mystery, as you can imagine, as to what caused this bizarre spontaneous sickness. Well, after 1 week, an autopsy was conducted. The reason they waited a week was so that if she had some kind of biological agent or supervirus inside of her, that it had enough time that it wouldn't be re-released whenever they actually performed the autopsy. They performed the autopsy in full.
What, they just assumed that it would be gone after a week? Like, what? Who made that call? Whatever. They know more about this than I do, obviously.
Hazmat gear as well, just to be double safe.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing that they found in the autopsy is that she was completely clean. Or at least she was clean from any chemical or radioactive elements that would have caused what happened in that emergency room. The only things they found in her system were Tylenol, lidocaine, codeine, and Tigan. Tigan is an anti-nausea medication.
What is lidocaine? I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it's some sort of like painkiller, like Novocaine.
These are all things that would be standard for a suffering cancer patient to have in their body. Also, that medication of Tigan is important because Tigan breaks down into amines in the bloodstream, which would explain the smell of ammonia on the blood vial. It doesn't explain the little crystals floating in the blood, but we'll get to that. In this initial autopsy, they were mainly looking for a cause of death, and it was determined that Gloria died due to heart complications that arose due to kidney failure. It seemed that the cancer, as well as the medication she was on, caused her to get kidney failure, and she was also going through the early stages of liver failure. These things caused a backup of toxicants in her system, which eventually led to heart problems and her eventual death. However, kidney failure doesn't explain why 23 people who were in the building also got sick. So they reseal her body, and then 5 weeks later, they perform another autopsy where this time they collect samples. Also in tandem with this, the Department of Health does an investigation at the hospital. And once again, they can't find anything that they're testing for.
Nothing, no
traces. So the Department of Health determines that Gloria again died of kidney failure, and everything else that happened in the hospital
was a coincidence?
Was mass psychogenic illness. Or in other words, mass hysteria. The reason
This was, what, did he say 1994? That's like not that long ago. This is not like the 50s, right? Like we had a lot of technology at this time still. Like obviously not probably anything close to what we have today, but like that was still pretty modern age. Mid 90s. I'm not going to be able to articulate myself very well here, but fuck it, I'm going to try anyways. Because I was never very good at biology or any of the human sciences, as I was saying before. But in my mind, there has to be some sort of obviously, there has to be some sort of chemical reaction from probably the drugs. I don't know if cancer can do, I know cancer like mutates your cells. Maybe all of those things combined are what's causing this like special chemical reaction that are like, it's like super rare, obviously, because we never see cases like this. I'm probably like saying the most obvious shit right now, but that's where my mind's going, okay?
For this, again, they couldn't find any direct kind of agent in Gloria.
And maybe after a week or after however long they did the second autopsy, or even the first one, because they couldn't find that after the first autopsy a week later, maybe a lot of those chemicals had already been like flushed from her system and left her system. Maybe it was only happening right when the kidney and the kidney and the liver were failing, was when it was like the sweet spot for all of this like weird shit to happen. I don't know, dude. I'm not a fucking scientist, man. I am a computer science guy, but.
And also, they interviewed 34 people around the hospital to try to get all the information they could about that night.
Right.
And it seems the people who were the most ill were women and people who didn't eat anything for dinner that day. So people who had skipped a meal. So the idea being that, well, since it just seems people were a little bit hungry, I guess they got a little bit nauseous or whatever, and the people who got really ill
were women.
So,
weak immune system. Like what?
It'd be crazy, I guess. And you may hear that and think the investigators were a couple of guys who were downplaying what these women said they experienced, but both of the investigators were women as well. So Make of that what you will. Because while several of the men, like Dr. Ochoa, who was in the room the whole time, said that they felt ill, the only ones that passed out and had severe reactions, like feeling like their skin were burning, were female workers. So the Department of Health said everyone in this hospital is crazy and left it at that. The people at the hospital...
That's like, you can't, right? Did they have like a quota to fill? Like, did they have to solve it? Was their job on the line to figure this shit out? So that's what they went with? Surely, right? There's no way they could be so stupid to just say everyone's like wacky at this hospital. Let's find out more. Let's keep it going. I'm so imagine, like happy with this curious. Conclusion. Yeah, no kidding.
Who strongly disagreed with this conclusion was Julie Korchinski. If you'll remember, she was the second person to pass out on the night Gloria died.
Yeah.
She spent 2 weeks in the hospital and developed hepatitis and avascular necrosis in her knees.
What? Necrosis is when you're like part of your body is dead, right? And it's like eating itself. And you have to like kind of like amputate that part of the body so it doesn't continue eating the rest of your part of the body. I think. I don't know what fucking avascular means. Something to do with your veins, I imagine. But she got a hepatitis though? Was she on like a contaminated gurney, like a hospital bed?
So the hospital asked other people to take a look at the data. And eventually,
it gets weirder and weirder.
Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. At Lawrence Livermore, they took the samples that were taken from Gloria's second autopsy, and instead of just running it through to see if they could find any toxicants, they decided to just run it for everything and see what was in her blood and tissues. Okay. The only thing they found, aside from some traces of other pain relief medication, was a chemical known as dimethylsulfone. Now, dimethylsulfone, or DMSO2, is a naturally occurring chemical that can be found in trace amounts throughout the body. If you eat a lot of plants or eggs or something that contains sulfur, it is a trace element that is made as a byproduct of your body's digestion process. However, dimethylsulfone is, for one, very, very sparse in the body to the degree that most people would never even test for it, and in the body, it naturally decomposes after about 3 days. And two, dimethylsulfone is harmless in any reasonable concentration. As a matter of fact, methylsulfone, which is also known as methylsulfonylmethane, or MSM, is a popular alternative medicine. So trace amounts in the blood wouldn't be enough to kill you.
Okay.
However, what was strange about this amount of methylsulfone in Gloria's system
could she not like
is that
break
it
it
was
down
not
properly?
a trace amount. From the
ton,
samples
right?
that were taken 6
what
weeks
is it? Does it
after
like
Gloria's death?
Is it something that's normally like processed in your liver or kidneys, and because they were failing, there was just like a large buildup of it? Interesting.
She had 3 times the normal amount of methylsulfone in her system. And while that may not sound like a lot, remember, methylsulfone degrades after about 3 days.
There it is,
so
yeah.
If this was after 6 weeks, then at the time of death, she would have had dozens, if not 100 times the normal amount in her system.
Yeah.
So Pat Grant, a scientist who was researching this case, decided to do some more digging. And he discovered a link to something known as dimethyl sulfoxide, or DMSO. Now, dimethyl sulfoxide and dimethyl sulfone are very similar to each other. They're just one oxygen atom apart. And DMSO has a whole history when it comes to medical treatments. Back in the 50s and 60s, DMSO was thought to be a sort of cure-all. People would take it as a pain reliever for sprains or breaks. They would take it for headaches. They would apply
Yo, we were so crazy back in the day, man, with the lack of information that we have now. Wasn't like cocaine used as like a medicine or something like that back then? I know they put cocaine in like actual Coca-Cola. Maybe it wasn't cocaine.
Any kind of swelling or cramps. However, in 1965, doctors found that prolonged use of DMSO
no. This was 1994. They're just talking about a discovery. Okay.
Can cause damage to the lens of your eye. So the FDA began to blacklist it as a direct medication.
Okay.
Now, DMSO is still used in a lot of medication today. It is a much diluted form from what it was back in the 60s, but it's used as a sort of applicator in a lot of topical ointments that you use for like muscle pain or cramps. And you can even get straight up DMSO cream that is, again, diluted from what it was in the 60s, that is used as an alternative medicine for things like muscle pain.
Nature's gift.
It's also used in veterinary
Is that what Tiger Balm is?
To treat horses with some kind of inflammation or swelling.
Oh, great.
So DMSO was kind of kept as a niche concept in medicine, at least when used by itself, up until the 1980s.
Okay.
When some scientists began to propose that DMSO could be a form of cancer treatment. As a matter of fact, 60 Minutes even ran an episode about it.
The riddle of
you have
DMSO.
this chemical, dimethylsulfoxone, that a lot of people believe might be a kind of cure-all or treatment for cancer that is used in some part in, standard pharmaceuticals when it comes to like topical creams and stuff like that. But that wasn't enough for some people. So there is another way to get DMSO. DMSO, whenever it is highly, highly concentrated, is a very powerful degreaser. You can buy it in a gel form at hardware stores, and it gets used as everything from oven cleaner to paint remover. It is way more concentrated than even the pills that people were taking back in the 60s of DMSO.
I'm kind of lost now. Is this the thing that was on her body we're talking about now? Like the thick layer of lotion was DMSO on her body that her body produced?
Much less the way it's used in medicine today.
Probably completely off.
But it was this little trick of the trade back in the 80s that if you were like a college athlete and you got sore muscles a lot,
put
you
DMSO
could go
on
to
it?
the hardware store, get some DMSO gel,
What the fuck?
rub it on the muscle, and then the next day, the pain would be gone. I cannot properly state the amount of chemicals you're shoving into your body when you are doing that. And for the sake of this YouTube video, let me be clear,
do that,
not
please.
rub oven cleaner on your body.
Yeah, what
so Pat
the
Grant's
hell?
researching all of this, and he finds that with the DMSO gel, it has the strong smell of garlic, which if you'll remember, is the same.
She was putting DMSO on her body? Was she doing this, or was it her body producing this?
Same thing the people in
I need
the
a recap
emergency
already.
room reported came out of the mouth of Gloria Ramirez, and that in its gel form, it looks like a bright, oily lotion, which if you'll remember, is the same thing they saw on
her
Gloria's
skin,
chest
yeah.
whenever they went to give her the defib.
Oh
so
my
it seems
God.
that Gloria maybe wanted to try DMSO as a home remedy for cancer, which again, a lot of
Shit.
people at the time believed that it might be, and that
Sorry, I got lost in the sauce. I didn't remember if he was saying that this is something that her body was like producing because of the buildup of the substance. Maybe that was the chemical reaction, but no, I was completely off there. She was actually just rubbing this oven cleaner on herself.
That would explain
Wild.
the oil on her body and the smell coming from her mouth.
The garlic.
However, it wasn't dimethyl sulfoxide that was found in her body. It was dimethyl sulfone.
Yeah.
So that would mean the DMSO in her body needed to be spiked with a lot of oxygen to become dimethyl sulfone. So Pat Grant thought about this and remembered the detail that she was given an oxygen mask on the way to and while she was in the hospital.
This is why I fucking never pursued chemistry beyond like high school, dude. Shit is so over my head. Like I can't do it, man. I don't know how people memorize all these things. It's insane.
And it's not hard for dimethyl sulfoxide to become sulfone if introduced to an area with a lot of concentrated oxygen, like an oxygen mask.
Oh
and
my
the other
gosh.
interesting detail about DMSO2 is that at room temperature, it forms into small crystals. So Grant did an experiment. He took a blood sample, mixed it with DMSO2, and sure enough, small manila crystals began to form in the serum.
Okay.
Meaning that could be the explanation to the crystals that Julie saw in the blood that night. Because while it was in
hell?
Gloria's body, it was too hot to form these solid crystals, but as soon as it was removed and brought into the temperature of the emergency room, it cooled down and began to form the solid shards.
I see.
Now, there's one big hiccup in all of this. Like, sure, we've got to the point that DMSO could have been what she put on,
Yep.
and that was converted into DMSO2,
Yep.
which would explain the smell of garlic, the oil on her body, and the crystals in the blood.
Yes. Okay, I'm following. Okay.
And remember, the smell of the blood was explained with the nausea medication
Right.
that we already established she was on.
Yep, the ammonia
so it seems
smell.
that all of that's taken care of. However, neither dimethyl sulfoxide or dimethyl sulfone is toxic, and especially not toxic enough that it could get into the air and make a bunch of people sick. So Grant
Oh yeah,
continued to
I
do
forgot that there was
research.
that whole aspect of the story was that she was also like emitting some like toxic fumes as well. Yeah, what the fuck?
And he found that on the same tree of sulfoxide and sulfone, there is another chemical known as dimethyl sulfate,
Yep.
or DMSO4. Dimethyl sulfate is a nerve gas, or more specifically, it was tested in the 70s and 80s as an agent for nerve gas. As a matter of fact, dimethyl sulfate dates all the way back to World War I, when both
What?
France and Germany tested it for use in chemical warfare.
So her body was like, she was like a fucking lab, dude. This is insane.
As a matter of fact, in 1987, it was determined that...
I'm also surprised that it took so long for people or someone to actually kind of get to the bottom of some of this stuff. Shout out Pat Grant.
Sulfate is so dangerous, it only takes 10 minutes of exposure to 0.5 gram of it per cubic meter to kill someone. And of the 20 symptoms that were reported in the hospital that night, 19 of them are directly linked to symptoms of DMSO4.
And nobody died, though, because of being, like, the exposure to her? Was it because she was producing such a small amount, such trace amounts? Or was it because they left immediately and they got lucky that they weren't there for long enough to actually, like, pass away from this? Wow, this is insane.
The only one that wasn't linked is vomiting. That was never seen in dimethyl sulfate experiments.
Okay.
But if someone's undergoing, face burning and muscle spasms and paralysis and all those other things, they might throw up. So you may be thinking, all right, that makes sense.
Yep,
the
that's
DMSO2 became DMSO4, and that's what got everyone sick. However, there is a hiccup in that theory. While it's easy to make DMSO2 because all you do is just add another oxygen atom to the sulfur, you can't just add...
Yeah, that's the which you already explained was the gas mask. Okay.
2 more oxygen to make DMSO4.
You can't just add 2 more oxygen. See, as a math guy, why not? Why can't you just add 2 more oxygen?
Because for DMSO4 to happen, the sulfur has to break both of its methyl bonds.
What? I'm gonna let him cook, dude. This is way over my head at this point. Oh my god. I remember being back in chemistry in grade 11 and like seeing these diagrams. I'm lucky. Like, I don't know how I passed that shit because like this is like I have no idea what I'm looking at right now.
Class is finally coming back to help me.
Oh, great. Well, it helps one of us.
Has to break 2 methyl bonds, which are both strong, and then connect to 2 additional oxygen atoms, and then those oxygen atoms connect to the methyl groups. Meaning that whereas...
Okay. So sulfur would have to break its methyl bonds, whatever the fuck that means, and then those broken off bonds would have to bind with oxygen individually and then come back and rebind with the original chemical. Okay.
For the first step,
Makes sense.
Just, add some oxygen and there you go.
Yeah.
For the second one, you need a lot of energy to break everything down to its base components and then reform
and then rebind them.
Sulfate.
Right.
And
Okay, that makes sense. I'm following.
Is a pretty strong chemical. It doesn't vaporize until 370 degrees Fahrenheit. So in order to break down all of these elements
Is your
and
internal
put them back
temp that
together
high?
as DMSO4, it would take a lot of energy.
Could have cooked a pizza
do you
on
know
her.
what's got a lot of energy? A defibrillator.
Oh.
Grant proposed a theory that perhaps the DMSO2 in her body, which formed from the DMSO and oxygen, was electrocuted by the defib that gave it enough energy to either break apart the bonds it had or to restructure itself.
It's like the perfect
with
storm
the
of
other
things.
Chemicals and elements that were present in Gloria's
This is
body.
insane.
Now, this has never been recreated in a lab.
Yeah.
Because we can't, hook people up to a
Yeah.
bunch of chemicals and then electrocute them to see what happens. Although that'd be kinda
Unless,
cool.
yeah.
But this has never been recreated in a lab.
Okay,
So it's
okay.
all theoretical if this could even happen. But some scientists agree that it is possible that if you put this combination of DMSO2 along with the other trace elements that would be found in her body and then electrocute that it could theoretically
Possible.
form dimethyl sulfate, which would turn the emergency room
Wow.
at Riverside General Hospital into a gas chamber.
Yeah.
Now, a very diluted one, mind you. There wouldn't be enough in her system that it would be immediately lethal to anyone standing
Well,
around.
clearly, yeah,
but
yeah.
definitely enough to make them sick.
Yeah,
it's
that's
also
insane,
the only
dude.
thing that could explain everything that happened, from the weird smells to everyone getting ill to the crystals in her blood. There's nothing else that makes sense.
It makes
At least
sense,
not
yeah.
any one answer. because the series of events that had to happen is absurd. Like, to make sure we're all on the same page.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, here we go.
Gloria Ramirez had cervical cancer. So she decided to get an oven cleaner or a degreaser in order to try to remedy that cancer. So she takes that. She then has heart palpitations, likely brought on by the kidney failure, which, mind you, the reason that level of DMSO might have been lethal or in concentration enough to cause the effect it eventually did is because she wasn't able to urinate it out of her system because of the kidney failure, which might have been exasperated and probably was because of the DMSO. So because she takes this alternative medicine and also has kidney failure, it creates a combination
like a buildup,
that whenever she gets into the ambulance, the oxygen that's pumped into her lungs combines with that to make DMSO2. Again, fine for now, but then
the defib comes around.
DMSO2 that's staying in her system gets electrocuted with chest paddles, which in that moment
crazy
turns Gloria into a toxic gas factory. One of the most bizarre one-off moments in medical history that almost killed a lot of people and perhaps definitely killed Ramirez.
Okay, I have a question then. How long ago, like when did defibrillators come into like the mainstream, and like when were they invented, I guess? Because if DMSO was used as like a cancer treatment prior to this, like in the 80s, I think, or no, it would have been in the 50s, I think he said, because in 65 they realized that it was a or something like, I think he said 65. They realized that it was actually not good for you, like funnily enough, because it's a fucking oven cleaner or whatever. You maybe could think that this might be more common, right? This could have been a more common occurrence. But maybe defibrillators weren't around that long? I guess I could just look it up because I'm curious. Defibrillator invented 1930. I mean, I guess maybe it was like a home remedy. And maybe when they would go to the hospitals before they would get defibbed. I'm saying it incorrectly. Defibrillator. I was saying defibrillator. Oh my god. The defibrillator. And I guess this was like a pretty like time sensitive issue. She was like literally dying, so they didn't have time to really assess the situation, I guess, and really identify what that was on her. They just kind of passed it off as a lotion. Maybe that's the reason that this didn't happen before. I don't know. But yeah, like immediately I'm thinking like this could have been more common since the defib was around. Defibrillator, not defibrillator. Okay.
Which, if that's true, then no wonder they were unable to revive her, because the inside of her body was producing a nerve agent. And yes, again, while without another chemical being added, it takes 370 degrees to get this stuff to vaporize, a small amount of it will vaporize naturally.
This would also explain why just the women were severely affected, as they were the only people to make immediate contact with Gloria's blood and mouth IV site, as that was where the trace vapors of dimethyl sulfate would have been the strongest. Right. Okay. So that was just coincidental, where there were no men dealing with these specific areas of her body. Okay, that makes sense.
Perhaps small enough to just make the people in the building sick instead of killing everyone. Now, it should also be mentioned that the family of Gloria has vehemently denied that she ever used DMSO. And I hate to go against, what a family says about a lost loved one, but I don't see any other way this case could be explained. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about the case too, which are completely unfounded, but I have to mention.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one, right? Because, like, were they around her 24/7? Maybe they didn't want to come off as, like, being maybe, like, part of the catalyst of her actually trying the DMSO. They didn't want to have that on themselves, on their names. Or maybe she actually didn't. Maybe she just had Tiger Balm on her chest. But yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree with Wendigoon here. Like, I'm not going to go as far as and say that I can't see another possible reality where there's another cause for this, because I just I'm not educated well enough on like chemicals and like chemical reactions and like different bonds and how they impact people and things of that nature. But at least the way that they presented, or at least the way that he's presented the story and they laid it out, it all adds up, right? Like, it makes total sense. Like, if there was another explanation for that thick fluid on her body, like, that's kind of like the foundation of this whole story. If there's like another explanation of what that could have been, maybe one of you guys in the comments like has more insight on this story, and can provide me some more details. But yeah, like I agree. Like, I think it had to be.
Mention them because it's me. A few of the weird details are the syringe that contained the actual crystals of supposedly DMSO2
Okay.
disappeared. No one was able to find that syringe after the incident. And while that
Okay.
isn't unheard of, a lot of people used it as fuel for the fire. Another detail is the coroner, who was originally investigating all of this, took his own life about a month after Gloria died, so people think he was silenced. And the other weird detail is Gloria's third autopsy. So Gloria had the first autopsy that was a week after her death. She had the second one where they took...
I think a lot of people try to come up with conspiracy theories just to feel like they're like smarter than other people, to think that they've you know what I mean, like to think that they're like they're up on other people, or they're ahead of other people in some weird way. I don't know, man. This is so strange. But let's finish this up.
Samples 6 weeks after her death, and then the family, who didn't believe the hospital or the laboratory saying it was the whole DMSO thing, had a coroner do a private autopsy 10 weeks after Gloria's death. During that third autopsy, Gloria's heart was missing, and a lot of her internal organs had fecal matter on them. And a lot of people point to these things about the coroner, about the autopsy being weird, and the syringe missing, to say there was some kind of cover-up. There was a theory that got passed around the News Times LA that the hospital was smuggling methamphetamine, and that what actually happened is someone accidentally hooked up one of these smuggling IV bags full of meth to Gloria, and everyone in the hospital got hit with a vaporized
Walter
meth.
White.
For one,
what?
That would have been found in the autopsy report, and no. Like, trust me, if there's anyone out here who wants to point fingers at an establishment and say that there's some grand conspiracy that people are unaliving themselves over, it's me. But we have to have some
Wendigoon's
to work with, guys, or else we're just going to get made fun of. I mean,
yeah.
more than we already are. The syringe
He's a big
was
conspiracy
either
guy.
thrown away
Okay.
or lost in the confusion of the hospital being evacuated and then cleared. The whole coroner death doesn't look like it was related at all to Gloria. That guy had a lot on his plate with a lot of different investigations that he was doing. And if you'll remember, whenever they did the second autopsy with Gloria, they took a lot of samples. And since her cause of death was heart failure, it's reasonable that they would have removed her heart for future study. And also,
makes sense. What about the fecal matter, though?
Mentioned that a lot of her internals were too badly decomposed to really analyze anything.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the question, if some organs were removed and others cut, that some fecal matter could have seeped out into the rest of the body. Again, Gloria's
true.
family
That makes sense.
maintains that she never used DMSO, and Gloria's sister has gone on record saying that it is the hospital's fault for Gloria's death.
My thing is, like, why are they so, like, vehemently against the idea of her using DMSO? Unless they were with her 24 hours of the day, which is possible. Like, if she was dying from cancer, it's very possible that they were the ones, like, always around her, and they know that, no, there's no chance somebody applied DMSO to Gloria. She never did it to herself or anything like that. But it's strange to me that they are so, like, they're so adamant about this, right? Like, makes me like, which I get now why that would stoke the fires of conspiracy theorists.
And the poor sanitary conditions at that hospital. Although in following investigations, this was never supported. And while it can never be proved with 100% efficiency because the samples are too old to be analyzed now, and we didn't have any testimony or reports then that were looking for something like DMSO, it seems to me that this is the most likely option, as outlandish as it is. And with this case,
I mean, it makes sense,
I noticed
though.
a lot of people who talk
adds
about
up.
it well, there's two approaches to it. There's the approach that I grew up with on YouTube that a lot of you are probably familiar with, where this...
And, like, it adds up because, like, she had cervical cancer, and Wendigoon stated that DMSO was used as, like, a home remedy for cancer patients sometimes in the past. So, like, the foundation is there for the story. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, man.
Supernatural occurrence. Like the mysterious toxic lady who went into a hospital and then everyone around her got sick.
Yeah.
Maybe she was possessed or like had some kind of
sort of Stranger
demon
Things
plague or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other approach I've seen is with people who are following the whole DMSO theory that she effectively used a hardware store paint remover in order to treat her cancer, and that is what kicked off the series of events that led to the mysterious toxic lady death. A lot of those people have a tone of, oh, imagine being so stupid that you end up nearly killing a whole hospital room full of people. Or they at least kind of have this tone that Gloria was
Didn't he
dumb
say
enough
that it
to
was
use DMSO.
there's a lot of stupid. I'm not saying Gloria is stupid, but there's a lot of stupid people out there that don't really base any of their opinions on like actual like facts and reason. They just kind of, I don't know, man. I don't know where they get it from, but maybe I'm misremembering something, but I swear he said that DMSO was used as a home remedy for cancer in the past. I can see someone being like a late stage cancer patient or something like that and trying to figure out, you know, like what are some things I could possibly do to help myself in some way. And if this is something that was used in the past, like fuck it, like maybe she didn't have much time anyways, so like why not try it
to try to treat her cancer. And I think the thing to keep in mind with all of that is that Gloria Ramirez was diagnosed with cancer 6 weeks before she was dead. She was a wife and a mother of two who, it seems from the records, never began chemotherapy. More than likely because her, again, prognosis wasn't good and her chances on chemo weren't good.
Yeah.
Or maybe she just couldn't afford it, or the insurance wouldn't back it because there wasn't a point. Who knows? But she was a mother who was about to die, and it seemed that normal medicine wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
So, of course,
totally
she's
rational.
Gonna try something weird or out of the box.
Rational
and as
line
far
of
as
thinking.
the idea that she's somehow responsible, or I should say, willingly responsible for what happened in the hospital room. It is
the fact alone that they couldn't figure this out for however long, like, is proof enough that this was not like, come on, this is ridiculous.
Still debated in laboratories to this day if that series of events was even possible. There is no way she could have known at the time that putting that on her skin would cause a series of events.
No, like that's like Megamind level super genius,
just
like
like
super
how whenever
villain.
the doctor hit her with the defib, like there was no way for him to know that he was exciting elements to cause a chain reaction that converted an alternative.
Yeah, 1 sec. Okay, what was the last thing you just said? Sorry, I had somebody at my door.
Hit her with the defib. Like, there was no way for him to know that he was exciting elements to cause a chain reaction.
No, there's no shot. There's no shot he could have known.
Into a weaponized gas. The story of Gloria Ramirez is a tragedy, and it's incredibly fascinating.
The only way that the only like faults I can see in this story, and they're not even faults because I'll explain what I mean by that after. The only like maybe like lack of I don't know what the word would be, like not like they're not doing due diligence, or the lack of like thoroughness, I guess, in their like handling of Gloria would be identifying what that thick substance was on her. But like I think, like I mentioned earlier, that this seemed like it was all like really urgent. Like she was unaliving like on the spot. So they had to act really fast. And like I can understand why they would be like, oh, it's probably just some sort of lotion or like Vaseline or something like that she applied on herself. That I feel like that's the only place where I can see where the ball was kind of dropped. But even then, like the circumstances like makes sense why it wouldn't have been as high of a priority to like try to identify what that was right away. They were trying to keep her stable, I imagine. So yeah, I don't think anyone's really to blame here. Like obviously using the DMSO, if they did use it, is like it's not a very wise decision. I think most people can agree on that, but people are gonna do what they're gonna do when they're like when their life's on the line, or when they, you know what I mean, when they feel like they're out of options. People are gonna go to crazy lengths or do extreme things to try to like get themselves out of those situations.
That something like that can occur in the world that we seemingly know everything about. And it's cases like this that opened up our mind and understanding of the world around us, and hopefully lead to new discoveries in the future. Off of this case alone, there's still people experimenting what DMSO can do to try to better understand ways that we can accidentally form dangerous chemicals in healthcare or industrial settings. And also still experiments of DMSO and its use as a treatment for diseases or pain.
This is like the equivalent of like lightning striking, you know, like lightning, like it's the saying is like lightning never strikes twice, but like it's just like a combination of so many ridiculous, uncommon like variables coming together all at the same time for this to happen, man. Like, wow, man, wow, it's insane. It's almost like thinking of like parallel universes, or like, I don't know, like Rick and Morty, like how there could be like infinite number of possibilities in universes. You know what I mean? Like this is like the most ridiculous one. Like 1 in a trillion chances of this actually happening the way it did, playing out the exact way it did.
That the Gloria Ramirez case is used as an important footnote. So hopefully, in spite of being a tragedy of the past, the story of the toxic lady can reshape our understanding of the future. And I, of course,
this was a really informative video.
Guys about
so cool.
The crazy series of events that led a normal heart palpitation into a nerve gas, because that's insane.
It's wild, man.
That. And hopefully you enjoyed hearing it at least half as much as I enjoyed talking about it.
That was dope.
That's really cool. And I'm glad you're here. And I just want to say,
look at us.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Like I said
that was
earlier,
great.
This is a case that I remember seeing on YouTube forever. Like listening to old creepypasta channels talk about the mysterious woman who got an entire hospital sick. Was it a demon? Was it a ghost? Who knows? And then I was thinking about that case because I remember it being called the Toxic Lady. I was like, oh, I should make a video on that. And I searched.
Sidebar about conspiracies. I don't know where I read this. I don't remember what it was. Like a lot of these like myths and conspiracies are really just a consequence of people having bad eyes and like just like seeing things. Random sidebar about it. That's what this reminded me of.
Searched it up and came across all of this, and I'm like, wow, that's depressing. I still have to talk about it because that's insane.
It wasn't as depressing of a story as
it's super depressing.
I like honestly, it's a fucking cool story, man.
You get to be depressed too. Congratulations. But yeah, I had to talk.
Maybe
about
I'm just like jaded to these types of things.
But. The Toxic Lady is a story that but I wouldn't say it's ruined because I never, as a kid, I was never like, oh, maybe it was a demon or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I always knew it was some kind of, freak, either virus
chemical reaction,
or infection or what have you.
Yeah.
But it's more terrifying in a way because it went from just being like, oh, maybe she had this one disease into like, oh, she just put on a thing that you can buy at the store. And over just like everything that happened, it created a nerve gas.
Well, that's what I was saying, right? Like if DMSO was actually widely kind of used, or not widely used, but it wasn't like blacklisted by the FDA or whatever you said as an alternative medicine for cancer treatment. I'm honestly surprised that this didn't happen another time. Surely somebody was in their final hours or days due to cancer or something like that, and then they tried some sort of like last resort, put this on, rush to the hospital. That doesn't sound like so outlandish, but maybe not, man. I don't know, man.
That's cool. But not cool in an actual cool way. Cool like I dread for.
No, it is cool.
Safety, but
that's sorry, you're right. What he was saying about the DMSO.
But yeah, I'm rambling. I think it's really neat. Hopefully you thought it was really neat. And yeah, I'm very tired, as I am normally when I record these. I'm going for a few hours. So I'm going to get this edited and get it up so that you all can see it. But again, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the videos lately. I had a slow start in January getting back in the groove of YouTube, but now we're back at it. Hopefully you guys have liked what I've been doing lately, and I'm going to keep at it.
That was a great video, man.
With that, that's really all I have to say. Time to start editing, so that you all can enjoy it. You guys make it worth it because you're the best. But anyway, with that, that should be all for now. But I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.
I like this guy, man. Great video. Really. Actually, phenomenal video. Like, I love informative, like, educational videos like that. And I'm surprised I'd never heard of this story, man. Maybe it's because I'm not from the States. I haven't heard, like, the folklore or, like, the tale of this, or maybe I wasn't alive at the time when this happened, but that was a great video. I'm 100% going to be checking out more of Wendigoon's content. This was incredible. I'm curious if all of his stuff is along the same lines as this, or if he does like a variety of different types of videos. You guys let me know what you guys want me to check out, though. Maybe recommend some other videos from Wendigoon that you think I would like and that you'd like to see me watch. I just dropped the sub right now to Wendigoon. Everyone go support his channel, of course. Drop a like on my video as well. Drop a comment recommending what other videos you guys want me to check out in the future too. It could be more things like this, like Internet Historian, more gaming related videos as well. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for checking out my video today. I really do. And I think that's it. Other than that, though, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.